One of my favorite people, Henry Amar, said, "The truth will set you free when applied in the right perspective. Clear understanding is critical, and the only way to understand clearly is through the lens of unconditional love." Welcome to the Overcome Depression podcast. The tools you learn here can make depression a part of your past, allow healing regardless of your present circumstances, and offer hope for your future. I am your host, Jennifer Stirling-Campbell. I would also refer you to John 8:32, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." With affirmations or anything that is designed to reprogram the mind, it's important to be before you have, not have before you do. If you want amazing health, you have to identify as being the kind of person with the health that you want. If you want to lose weight, you have to identify with the kind of person who is fit and fab. If you want amazing relationships in your life, you have to identify with being the kind of person who can attract those types of relationships. You need to be before you can do, and do before you can have. So here's what I want to challenge if you accept this challenge. Make a list of as many things as you struggle with right now that you want to address or change. And I want you to say, when blank, I used to blank. Now I blank. For example, when I get angry, I used to hit things. Now I go for a walk. Or when I am feeling depressed, I used to lay in bed all day. Now I go to the park or call a friend. When someone says something politically I don't like, I used to get angry and say something rude in response. Now I listen patiently and ask clarifying questions to further understand. These are types of things we can write out to basically make a picture of the kind of person we want to be, and leave that old person who did these things in the past. I think the beginning part, when, is important, when certain things happen, because that denotes the trigger of a reaction, right? So when this, I used to, but now I, new thing. And you can read these every day, like you would affirmations, and try to feel and epitomize and identify with that person you are creating. I hope you will try it. With that said, for the rest of this podcast, I'm going to talk about an amazing replacement for your current all-purpose cleaner. I came up with an all-natural recipe that cleans my shower and my glass and all stains better than anything I've ever found at the store. Most people don't know this, but in college I was a maid. As I was going to college, that's how I paid a lot of my bills. And I worked with a lot of chemicals, unfortunately. I feel like it did do a number on my hands. They don't look as young as I feel like they could at 40 years old. And I wish I hadn't been exposed to all those things. I didn't know back then. But I did discover a few things. One of which was, I don't want a big, huge house that I have to clean. Number 2, I don't want things that are hard to clean. And number 3, I hated cleaning showers. Showers, dirty showers, especially master showers, it didn't seem to matter what house I was in. The master shower was always the most disgusting in the entire house, which is crazy to me because usually a lot of people had a lot of kids or who were certainly using the main bathroom, and maybe you would think is because, well, they maybe don't clean the master bathroom as often because they expect guests and they want to be not embarrassed when people come to use the bathroom. But I was coming to some houses every single week or every other week, cleaning the same houses. And week after week, the master bathrooms were always the most disgusting. And they always had a tub that just needed to be usually dusted and a shower that was astronomically disgusting. It wasn't something I could get away from. So I decided that I loved shower spray, the after shower spray that you spray on after you shower. And to this day, I use it every time I shower. The best way that I found how to use it is to not ask any of my other families to use it, and just I use it after the shower so it lasts longer and it gets done at least every day or every other day. I also wipe the shower down. This helps a lot, but all of that soap scum and the water that can get on the outside or the inside of the shower, I never have to actually clean my shower. I just wipe it down very lightly, and it's super easy. It never gets to that point of disgusting, which is so nice. Now, the shower spray I used to use was fairly toxic. I don't remember exactly which one I bought, but I used it for years and then decided this stuff's expensive. I think it was, even back then, about $5 a bottle. And it didn't last all that long. So I looked online for recipes. I found a few with vinegar, this, that, and the other. None of them really worked very well. And I finally found one that was pretty good, but the ingredients were not to the purification standards that I desired. So I edited it and tweaked it a little bit, and I came up with my own recipe. And I'm going to tell it to you right now. It's very easy. I'll actually link in the description. I have a blog about this cleaning solution that I use, but it's a great thing to replace your bathroom cleaner with. It's honestly one of the only cleaners I use. It's amazing at getting stains out of clothing, out of carpets. I've gotten some pretty gnarly stains out of carpets with this. Obviously it's good for the shower spray. It's way better than Windex. I mean, I got it. This is just my opinion, but I don't think Windex honestly works all that well for glass. This stuff, by far, the best glass cleaner I've ever used. It's also good for getting smells out, because the vodka is really good at getting smells out, particularly smoke. And so if I'm ever cleaning something that I bought on eBay and it comes smelling like smoke, I'll use vodka to get the smell out. I don't drink. I don't use vodka for anything except cleaning. So the first time I went out and bought vodka, I was kind of shy, kind of feeling embarrassed about it. Could I have some vodka, please? Because I didn't want to be, I don't know, it was just weird because I've never bought any alcohol in my entire life. Went to a alcohol store to get vodka. Now I get it in big bottles in Costco, and I put it up way high where my babies won't get it. I was actually standing in a line at Costco once, and my son, I think he had to have been 7 at the time, he goes, "Mom, what's this?" And I said, "Oh, that's alcohol, it's vodka, it's poison." And the lady at the cash register, I think the guy doing the bagging, they both laughed at the boxing. They don't have bags at Costco, but they started laughing, and I said, "No, for real, I only use this for cleaning." And they're like, "Oh, really?" Because, I mean, a lot of adults drink, but I don't. And I've always taught my kids that alcohol is poison, and I still will stand by that. I don't think it's good for anybody, but alcohol is really good for cleaning wounds, cleaning the house, getting smells out, like I already mentioned. I actually don't own any rubbing alcohol, because rubbing alcohol, and that was actually in the original recipe, but if you don't know this, rubbing alcohol is extremely toxic for the lungs. You don't want to be spraying it around and then inhaling it. And inevitably, if you're spraying it into the air or even at something, you're going to be inhaling some of that. So I don't recommend rubbing alcohol in any way, shape, or form. I get vodka. So the recipe is 1/2 cup of vodka, 1/2 cup of hydrogen peroxide, a tablespoon of vinegar. Now, if you're not comfortable with this, because I believe hydrogen peroxide and vinegar mixed together, it can be toxic. But I've read that in very small amounts, if you're just adding a tiny bit of vinegar or a tiny bit of hydrogen peroxide to one or the other, that it's okay. If you're not comfortable with that, you might want to shop for a eco-friendly rinse aid, because that's what the original recipe called for. But vinegar is also considered a rinse aid. So you make your judgment on that. You make the call. The last ingredient is 6 drops of dish soap, and I would choose an eco-friendly dish soap. The original recipe called for Dawn, which is extremely good at what it does, but also very toxic. And I didn't feel like taking the Dawn dish soap out and replacing it with just any eco-friendly dish soap did any, it worked just as good. So I actually ended up buying a bottle of recently, because these dispensers, the pump often stops working after a while. So I needed a new bottle after I think I used the same bottle for 8 years. I took it to quite a few different houses and moves with me, and it finally hit the dust. So, I mean, yay for that. Most bottles don't last that long, but I did go out, and I saw that just buying a bottle was almost as expensive as buying a bottle with shower spray in it. So I ended up going and buying a bottle that says shower spray. This one's Method Daily Shower Spray, and I used it up, and frankly, I don't know how amazing this is. It says that it was the best I could find on the shelf that day. It says plant-based cleaning power. But honestly, my recipe works so much better. Don't tell the people at Method that. But I was kind of unenthused by the product. But then I refilled it with my vodka hydrogen peroxide vinegar dish soap recipe. And I've been using that every time I take a shower ever since. So I highly recommend you try this product. Again, it can be used to disinfect your bathrooms, your showers, your sink, your kitchen. It's, basically edible, possibly with the exception of the dish soap. And hydrogen peroxide, probably don't want to guzzle that, but it's not going to, I don't think it hurts us to ingest a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. Just me, based on my own research. But it is such a good product. I cannot rave about it highly enough, which is why it's one of the first items that I am encouraging you to replace in your house. Again, a link to the recipe on my website you can find in the description. If you are new to this podcast, please go watch all of the hashtag introduction videos first, and then consider downloading the Overcome Depression workbook. Links in the description. The content in this podcast is based on my own personal beliefs, is for informational purposes only, and is not intended to substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please refer to the full legal disclaimer in the description.